Okay, good evening, everybody. We're going to get started. I want to welcome everybody to the second week of our 18th season here at the Gazebo. This is co-sponsored by Kiwanis Club of Oceanside and Oceanside Library and the Friends of Oceanside Library. We have Kiwanis President Mike D'Ambrosio's in the back, along with a whole bunch of Kiwanians. We actually had a meeting before, which was really great. We have the director of the library, Chris Mara, is with us. And we have board members from the Friends who are here with us, Angela Iovino, Kathy Schermacher, Mike Sullivan. If I missed anybody, yell at me. All right, so without any further ado, before we get started, everybody should have a program. And on the back of the programs, you'll see our very, very generous premium sponsors and program patrons. And we thank them all very much for their generosity. With those funds, half of them go to Kiwanis, and Kiwanis uses that to send underprivileged kids to summer camp. This summer, we're sending 7 kids up to camp. And the other half goes to the Friends of the Oceanside Library to run literary programs. So we're very, very excited about all of that. And if you need to use the facilities, again, the restrooms over there. There are snacks. The email list, sign up. If you're not on our email list, there's 50, 25, 25. And some of our authors have brought their books for sale. So please support the arts. So without any further ado, she's an Oceansider, and she's appeared for us several times, and we always welcome her back. It's not June unless we have Elizabeth Rowe.
So, thank you. Good evening, everybody. It's lovely to be here. So I'll start you off with a folk tale for all you folks. King Solomon's Ring. Benet was King Solomon's most loyal advisor, most brave of all his soldiers. In fact, he was the chief general of his army, as well as the king's personal guard. He was also the most trusted confidant. So good was he that every commission that the king had ever given to Benaiah, he performed cheerfully and successfully. But the king was very pleased with this, but he was also concerned because he felt that Benaiah was so successful all the time. He was afraid that perhaps it would go to his head, that he would become vain, smug. He thought on this a while, and then he decided to teach Benaiah a lesson in humility. Not that Benaiah ever gave him any cause for being conceited, but King Arthur thought that no man should ever be successful all the time. He should know that after all, no matter how wise he is, he's still a man after all, a human. And so the king devised a plan. He decided to send Benaiah to find him something that he knew did not exist. And so he summoned Benaiah one morning and said, Benaiah, my faithful servant, I have a project for you. I have heard of a ring, a most fabulous, magical ring that has a power, the power to make sad men glad and to make glad men sad. I should like to have this ring, Benaiah, and I would very much like to wear it at the Passover Seder in 1 month's time. Can you get it for me? Your wish is my command, said Benaiah. And he set out that very day. He went far from the city to the crossroads, there where all the caravans would meet and come by from the east on the Silk Road, from the snows of the north, from the hot desert stands of the south, and from the industrious cities in the west. All the caravans would pass there, and Benaiah set himself up there, and within less than a week's time, he met each caravan as it came. And to each one he approached and he said, I am looking for a ring. Do you know it? It is a ring with the power to make sad men glad and glad men sad. And every time he inquired, the answer was the same. No, sir, we know of no such ring. Could you keep a lookout for it? Could you keep your eyes and ears open? And they assured him that they would. Then Benaiah went back and summoned his whole army, and he brought them together and he divided them into 4 parts, and he sent them far, far into the farthest regions of the east and the north and the south and the west. Not just where the caravans came from, but for them to go and scour those areas themselves and look for that ring. Almost a week had passed now, and Passover would be in 3 weeks' time. He himself went back into the city and searched every shop in every street, every jeweler, every craftsman, every store. And he examined all of their wares, and he asked every shopkeeper, "Can you tell me of a ring? A special ring with a magic power, the power to make sad men glad and glad men sad?" No, no one had ever heard of such a ring. And in the weeks that followed, he took all the side roads and he asked the same question over and over. And finally, there were just a few days left, and he went out from the town into the crossroads to meet his armies as they came back from the east. No. From the north. No. From the south. No. From the west. No. With only a few days left, Benaiah sent all of his troops throughout the city to look at every store again and to examine all their wares, not just to ask. And he himself scoured all the streets and the side streets until finally Passover was upon them. The Seder was that night, and Benaiah still had no such ring. He wandered in the city despondent, afraid to go and tell his king that he had failed him. The sun was setting low. He looked around and realized he was lost in the labyrinth of the back streets of Jerusalem. He didn't know where he was. And he heard a young boy who was gathering up his wares, a tinker, really. And he looked down and he saw on the table pieces of metal, nuts, bolts, wires, keys. And the boy looked at him and said, "Can I help you, sir?" And Benaiah just kind of mumbled, "I'm looking for a ring." And the boy said to him, "Oh, sir, I do have some modest little rings, but I do not think you would want any of them. I can see by your attire that you are a man of means, and these rings are not valuable at all. They're tin, copper." "I'm looking for a special ring," Benaiah said, almost in a trance. "A ring that has a power to make sad men glad and glad men sad." And just at this point, the boy's grandmother appeared in the doorway. She had just finished preparing dinner, and she was seeing that her grandson was coming in. And when she saw Benaiah, she invited him in for their Seder. And he said, "No, thank you. I need a ring." And she said, "Yes, I heard what you were asking. Just a minute, please." And she picked up one of the rings from her grandson's table. And she picked up a carving point and disappeared into the house. And when she came back, she handed Benaiah the ring and she said, "I think this is what you're looking for." Benaiah, practically in a stupor, just took it from her and looked at it. And she said, "Read the inscription." "Yes. Yes," he said, "this is what I am looking for. Thank you. Thank you so much." And when he put his hands in his purse to pay her, he said, forget it. He just picked up the whole purse and gave it to her and turned and made his way back to the palace as fast as he could. And he arrived just as the Seder was being served, and the king was sitting at the head table. For a while, the king thought Benaiah would not show up, but when he saw him appear, he smiled and thought, okay, he will fail me tonight, but I will show him mercy and let him know that no matter how wise and efficient you are only human after all, and I will forgive him. Benaiah came up to the table, knelt down on one knee, and handed Solomon the ring. Solomon took it, looked confused, read the inscription. His smile disappeared. But he was so moved because what that ring said was, this too shall pass. And then he made Benaiah stand up next to him and he said, thank you, my faithful friend. You have given me more than you know. Because yes, as all folk tales tell us, there is a lesson to be learned. But in this one, many, many folk tales are layered, and this has a layer too. Because that was not the only lesson to be learned from this tale. King Solomon himself thought, I sent a man out to teach him humility, and he has come back and taught it to me. No more will I ever try to play God, because I know, however wise a man is, he is still a human and not a God. And putting on the ring, it is still known today as King Solomon's ring. Thank you.
Elizabeth Rowe. I think this year everybody's setting up much further out, right? Doesn't it feel that way? All right. Now coming up, Chanice, did you read here last year? You did. All right, back here for a second year at 2 out of 18. It's not bad. Ladies and gentlemen, Chanice Cruz. I'm gonna bet there.
Yeah, I think that's good.
Okay.
Hi, thank you so much. I'm so thankful to be back a second year for a program that does so good. So thank you so much for inviting me back. I have poems. The first one is called Summer Breeze. The first breeze feels like a breath finally released. Cyan freedom. Escape has always been the color blue. Midnight serenity. The darkness that opened and swallowed in one bite. You told us to find you in the butterflies. I find you everywhere I go. In the winter blues, between Erykah Badu lyrics, softly sung morning in a silver steel Dodge Magnum. This, all I have, a fistful of memories, the ocean that still waits for the promise of you. I still see you in this lifetime, but it feels more like a dream. When spring opens her arms, a backward breath, and releases the kaleidoscope of hope, slapping wings and then lands still. And there you are again. A crowd of people leaned in to catch all of the yous, splayed out waiting for me to notice. On the bottom right corner, your whispers onto a canvas. We could live here. We will stuff the oven with pots like our Wellas, learn to grow windowsill lavender for depression our ancestors would laugh at, who only bury and forget. We'd buy the L-shaped desk that you'd always wanted, the bookshelf you say has my name on, the blender green from the sofrito we will never stop perfecting. Saturdays are for cleaning and Pinterest recipes. Sundays are slow dances in our kitchen. The cats have their own rooms. The peaches never stop being eaten. Watermelon will make me think of something other than my mother's blood. Each crunch will only be your laughter. When you open the door, it smells like Cafe Bustelo and Fabuloso, the pot we only use for whole milk. The small IKEA furniture you built, the sofa we both agreed on, the first one you own without the plastic still on it, the bed with the small bookshelf made you think of me. You made room for me before we ever moved in. Drawers you remind me to close before I leave the room. Socks I undo before washing. Utensils crafted for your left-handed world. It is finally ours. Michelin Terrace, Richmond, Virginia. If she hadn't tackled me onto the hallway floor, a ghost would remain in my place, roaming in the halls, peering into rooms, waiting for you to come home. How long would time take to fold in on itself? When would I have stopped reaching for you? They would have packed up, the forced eviction still in motion, the empty rooms later renovated, catered to a new family. Maybe they turned my middle school bedroom into a nursery. Maybe the kids realizes she's gay in the same spot I did and refuses to believe it. Maybe another family moves in like us, a mother who changes the sheets with smaller hands, who smiles when her daughter sleeps or knocks on the door softly, and the door creaks open as she pops her head in. But the creak is all that is left of my voice, a stubborn door they gave up pulling apart, hoping it'd be you, who snuck in when I wasn't looking. So this is a longer piece. It's called a Sestina, so bear with me. Family secrets. I come from generations of women crafted by hand, a tradition whispered and practiced room to room. Our matriarch hollows us out herself to keep us safe. We'd all heard of the others, the women who break. Crafted into perfection, we have never lived with an ache in our hearts. Lovers tried and failed, yet generations built a thick wall. The men married into our family wails heard from over the wall. We feel nothing when she begins to sculpt from hand. Imagine a lifetime of strength, she whispers until our ears ache. The floor trembles as she molds, and women gather into the room. In the end, we are all warriors who do not break. My aunts are shaped into perfection, each one a safe. Our matriarch chooses the next in line to keep tradition safe. My grandmother locked secrets inside for years. If walls could talk, they would never let the pressure break them open. Broad shoulders towered over, steady hand. We were her only purpose. There was no room. When she died, the wall crumpled a little, yet still no ache. The day before she moved on, she chose her protege to fill the ache. In 1970, a fetus was born, heated, and sculpted into a safe. After my grandmother was done, every warrior gathered into the room. Looking into her eyes, they knew they had never been stronger. The wall buzzed with new tradition, with new creation designed into perfection at my grandmother's hand. My mother cradled into her arm, the aura oozing from promise to never break. A perfect product of her environment, each man attempted to break. All have attempted to get inside, but each one left with their body and ache. Hearts pumping in my mother's fists, her blood-stained hand from the men she tried to love. My father tried to listen to the clicks of her body, a safe. My stepfather tried to spin the dials of a secretive past, but the wall was impenetrable. There is no room for error. There is no error in a room. Soon to be mine's. I was created with my grandmother still in the room. My mother designed a cage around my mouth that was hard to break. My sister and I were designed with flaws built in to destroy the wall. She refused to create us to hollow, even when without the ache, she ached to ache. To feel something other than empty, she didn't like us being safe. We were not like the others with the quake of a difference built with her hand. The wall had begun to crack when my grandmother died. There was no more room, no matriarch's hand to sculpt new generations. Wings replaced traditions break. The ache is not bad when we are meant to love, free from tradition, not safe. How the tree dies. Pain is silent. Don't believe the rumors when the tree that falls into the woods. People think there is a thud, howl into the lonely forest, but I know the tree. The tree is quiet and in shock that it is dying. The tree is generations of roots and barks exposed. The tree is too proud to whimper. The snow falls on the tree because winter is brutal and it will break you. Pain is slow. People say his eyes look like oceans in the Caribbean, but all I see is glaciers. A slow moving mass of ice waiting for one wrong turn towards him. When I crash into him, I die slow. Like the tree too proud to howl into the storm of his palms. We die silent. We die slow. We die alone. You left your porch light on, neighbor. It rained hard the day after you were found, sitting on a lawn chair, your hands folded over one another, your mouth twisted like you were in the middle of talking by the time they found you. The morning after you died, I thought I saw you peeling back the curtain as I walked to my car at 3 a.m. facing the darkness head on, and all I could think about was you. Do you remember when this neighborhood was all trees? The decade my mom spent wondering if she could claw herself out, a time of safety and suffocation. At 3 a.m., I am running to my car, holding my breath so I won't drown in the memories. In the heap of souls surrounding me, there are so many people I'm carrying around these days. I've always been told to face the darkness head on, walk like I'm not afraid of what is lurking, never be afraid of the shadows up ahead. The morning after you died, your porch light was on. Did it call you home, neighbor? I have one last piece. It is after The Museum of Extraordinary Things by Alex Hoffman. It's called A Last Letter from the Hudson Mermaid to the Professor. The only monster proved to be you, man. So many nights hunched over your workbench, kneading her skin, your guilty fingers folding cadavers into commodity, never knowing how you grew such a stone stomach. Did you ever think twice of turning your back on the father who offered his daughter to us? A creature, he says, through blackened teeth, and you refused. An exchange of man, of women's bodies. I cried for her for months after. She always a wilted lily in a murky stream I tried to swim through. I still wake up sweaty, my eyes burning in the darkness. Sometimes memory is more powerful than the actual. In the dark room, my husband, deep sleep, and all I can see is the fluorescent tank, my lungs filled with water, and I am looking through you, like the last time, and the times before that. And I don't think I ever saw you truly until you were gone. The North Hudson is much colder than you expected. I still keep up a harsh train. My body is called to by the current. Her voice is so much softer since you died. I don't know if I'm still mistaken for a mermaid, a tale spun to scare children not to go to the river at night, goofy teenagers who stick their feet into the water after a few drinks. I give thanks to you. I don't need an apology from the monster you proved yourself to be all along, the final act revealed. Thank you so much.
All right, Chanice Cruz. Okay, next up is our immediately past Nassau County Poet Laureate. She is a great friend of the Gazebo. She's a great friend of the Oceanside Library. Last year, our Word Festival filled this entire this entire green with just wonderful poetry and music and written words. It just was an outstanding event. And she's, like I said, outstanding friend of us. Ladies and gentlemen, Paula Curci. Right height for you.
You get a hug. I want to thank Tony so much. Thank you. 18 years here. Awesome. Thank you, Tony, for your contribution to our poetry community. And thank you for having us here with the Word Festival. There are some people in the audience here I have to thank for being with me every step of the way during the Poet Laureateship. First, I have to thank Peter Dugan, who should have received, let's give him a round of applause, should have received the Deputy Assistant Poet Laureate position, if there was such one. And of course, Rita Monte, also my double-handed friend with all the projects that we're in, and Teresa Rosaria Bersner, and Pearl Katova Prillik, also very helpful in my tenureship. Along with the people at the Nassau County Poet Laureate Society, please come to the affirmation. Pat, also very helpful. There she is. Wait, Pat, you're amazing. Very helpful with the short poets. There will be an affirmation for the next Nassau County Poet Laureate, which is on Saturday at the Farmingdale Library. There's flyers in the back there. I'm going to start with a piece that I wrote for the Short Play Festival. I was honored to have the opportunity to read a poem prior to each act at the Short Play Festival. And this is really a benediction. It's a blessing of the stage. I am blessing the people. I am blessing the stage. Dousing you with sage, honoring the illuminated light inside the walls of Emmanuel's sight. We are here, bound by the voices of consequences and choices, with open ears to listen to the stories and the decision that balance the predictors, allow us to take the mental pictures. Hey, look around. Look around. Open up your transparent eye. Look at the nature and the sky and ask, why should I write for the child whose life is not sound? Why should I write about the person that cannot be found? Why should I be the voice of the people on the ground? This is why we thirst for the theater and what it inspires, what the power of the play desires, what the power of poetry desires, to be the change for someone's tires, to grapple with fake apples, be the voice for those without choice. Life be damned, hand in hand, we write it down. We write it down. I am blessing the people. I am blessing the stage. Dousing you with sage, because we are bound by our voices, our consequences, and our choices. And with persistence, we can remove the resistance, untie the tethers that bind, and let the narratives of our world, of our voices, of this play unwind. I'd like to share with you a piece from Poetry is a Sure Thing in an Unsure World. This is named after the poetry series that we have at the Long Beach Library with shore poets, and some of the people that were also very instrumental in getting this together are in the audience too. Dee Spungen. I'll go back to Pat over there helping sell the book at the festival. You were amazing. So what we did is we went around to different libraries. We went to Farmingdale we went to Freeport Library, we went to the Belmore Library and the Long Beach Library, and we had a project where we handed everybody a 5x8 index card, and on that 5x8 index card, people wrote down a short memory that they may have had. That's hence a micro memory. So this is my micro memory from my visit to the Freeport Library, and the prompt there was simply "at the shore." So my story is at the shore after Hurricane Sandy. The Humvee made a wide turn off Riverside to Olive. It rolled slowly down the block. My house is the second from the corner. It didn't take long before it reached my curb. I stood solid, unable to move. I was fearful of the movie rolling in my head, the story about the South American child stolen by the military, then flash to the African militia who kidnapped women. The sound of the truck was the same one I heard on CNN. Not here, not here. Get your mind straight. You're at the shore. This is Long Island, Long Beach, I told myself. They are here to help. Still, I stood still. Didn't know if I should wave them down or run inside. Then the truck stopped. A man wearing fatigues jumped out. All I heard was the thump, thump, thump of his boots stomping on the ground, moving toward me. I saw nothing but hunter green canvas, tall and tied to calf-high boots. He walked onto my property and reached his hand out for me to shake. I stepped back, and he took his hand down. In what seemed like slow motion, he said, "I am your neighbor. Do you need anything?" I took a deep breath, told him, "We're managing." My fear subsided, but I couldn't tell you if we had any other words. I don't recall. To this day, I don't know if he was New York National Guard, Air Guard, Naval Militia. I've never talked to my neighbor about it. I don't even know if I told my husband. Honestly, this is the first time I haven't welled up thinking about Sandy. Okay, so I pulled this one out because it's so cold. So this is called Corduroy in Spring. And I wish I was wearing my corduroy right now. Corduroy in Spring. Some may think it an oxymoron to wear such a heavy habit on a spring day. Corduroy. It's a tough rug to wear when the weather changes from 32 to 67. But I'll keep this cloth close to my chest throughout the day and into the dinner hour. Its black lined fabric hugs me like home and drifts on my skin. It makes me feel warm, like Nona's rigatoni alla vodka, holding the heat in its ridges, holding me up al dente on the edges. Spring. It's so unpredictable. With its flash flood showers, cold wind chills, it can ride through textile in a New York minute. So I've come to need this foothill fabric. It's my safe cocoon, and I will keep it in my closet next to Nona's twill wrap, ready for the wear until the sun of summer arrives to keep me warm. But I left it home today. I'm going to read this cento. I call it Teresa Rosaria Bersner. I mentioned her earlier. There she is. Thank you for all your help for the Word Festival and every other festival and every other thing that's happened in the last 2 years. So February 14th, we had an open mic at the Long Beach Library, and it was freezing, snowing, horrible, but people still showed up. So I wrote this called February 14th, 2024, Personal Touch Cento, because it's not exactly a cento, because I didn't keep every line that I extorted from other writers. I maneuvered those lines, so I call it a personal touch cento. On a snowflake-filled Valentine's Day, all you need is divine love to dance with Sunny behind the building. On patches of white snow, the view from here seems eternal. And yet, if we let our eyes close, it can become a dream. It's all Hallmark stuff, y'all, in my heart. Strong and deep. I believe in the steady sounds that come from a long drink of a Kentucky man who settles in for an honest end and accepts a haiku and visits a long lost Mr. Ghost who's all about love. And I believe I am in love again with that man who has an inherited look and a watch that sings jingle bells, jingle bells. A man who is unstoppable. Yes, I am in love again. And I'll use the power of my pen to climb to the peak of ecstasy and pull back the curtains of time and write about the wrongs. I'll write about infants' cheeks on mothers' breasts, grandmothers and tattooed police officers. I'll write about a poem, and it will find itself somewhere. After being locked away, we've all gone full circle to embrace each other, to hug trees and to meet in Capricorn spring. With attention and affection and a refusal to be abused, I'll write a cento. And I'll meet you and sing, what's so funny about peace, love, and understanding? On a blustery February day, I'll meet you through drifting snow to search together for golden stands and freedom from writer's block, freedom from frozen beaches, and go to the end full circle, delirious with joy and glee to start once again and over again on the second Wednesday of the month. I'm going to end with this one last piece. It requires your audience participation. So I've never done this before. I wrote this for today. So it's called Dear Word Dancers, Advice to Word Dancers. Those of you that know me, I've been saying that for a while. A word dancer is a poet and a writer, but it's also anyone in your life that's ever tried to sit you down and tell you something important. They are your word dancers in your life. So advice to word dancers. The prompt for you is I'm going to say, shape your lips and say. So when you hear me say that, that's your prompt. So we're going to practice. You're going to say, let my language burn. So I need to hear you all say that. Let my language burn. All right, now add a little like singy-songy to it. Let my language burn. One more time. All right, put a little bop into it. All right, let my language burn. And you're only going to do it twice during the whole thing. Strike the match. Create the spark. Start the conversation. Let your language burn. Break the stressed syllable barrier that feeds the cortisol in your gut. Let your words extinguish that visceral fat that weighs us all down from moving forward. Dear word dancers, stomp on the floor. Dear word dancers, censor no more. Shape your lips and say, let my language burn. Let my language burn. Tune into the melody whispered in the shower. Dance with the verbs sent to you each morning. Do this before the seer and soul-sucking body snatchers extinguish your power and forever lock up language behind the doors of censorship and controlled book burnings, because only you should control your flair. So work out at word building. Give each other room to hustle and disco each letter. Tread a measure with a vowel. Exercise your bellows.
Try it with me now. Let's meditate. Swallow the saliva that mimics caution. Push your breath out and breathe each phonetic entity. Breathe in novel ideas. Breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. Shape your lips and say, let my language burn. Let my language burn. You see, my dear word dancers, dancing with your words controls the oxygen. If you control the oxygen, you can control the fire. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Iovino and everybody out there in Facebook land.
Thank you. All right. Paula Curci. Okay, next week we have Tom Phelan, who's with us here tonight, Barbara Novak, and Lloyd Abrams, who's with us here tonight, and one to be determined. And so we look forward to next week as well. All right, so I am always honored when this man agrees to come read here. He's been reading with us over the course of 18 years. For those of you in the poetry world, I don't need to introduce him. For those of you who aren't, you have no idea the influence that this man has had over decades here on Long Island and throughout the New York City area and throughout the world. We're just honored to have him here again and again. The first poet laureate of Suffolk County, the dean of Long Island poetry, George Wallace. Thank you, George.
I always love to be here on Schoolhouse Green on Foxhurst Road. I've never been here twice. They're from the same route. Every time I use a GPS, it takes me a different route. I came and I saw the Freeport Library, the Belmore Library coming in. So it's the first. But I know leaving, I'm going to go up to that clam shack. That's a tradition. I have 4 poems I'm going to read to you. And just want to say that this reading series, which for me goes back, I think, to 2009, the first year that I read here, and I was pacing in the back, waiting for a call from FAFSA about my son's school loans in 2009 when he was off to school, or maybe it was 2007 when he was first off to school. That's how far back it is that I've been coming here. And I remember right there back in that spot, the first day they screwed me, and I've been paying for it ever since. Any help you can give me by buying a book there goes right to the government. Disobedience, because the stain of poverty colored my mother's garments, and her good manners and uneasy laughter betrayed her sense of shame in better company. Because my father was an irony of vowels, deceitful as a catbird, orphaned by the American dream and proud of it. A masterful conductor of damaged men, i.e. a bartender. Possessed by an easy, ruthless charm, an inadvertent stealer of the hearts of women. Because my sister spoke in sweet ellipses and fooled me handily. Because I had no brother to help me translate the world into ordinary English. Because my other sister did not bother to address me at all, only gave me blows to the head behind my parents' back and tossed me face first into street gravel on 3 separate occasions, all of them in Uniondale. Because I was not born rich like my neighbors and therefore despised everyone. I imagine I was despised by them. Because my uncle was a wandering gypsy in Anatolia and a loose cannon on Fifth Avenue and showered me with paintings by Degas and Chopin etudes. Because the love of words was a last resort and promised to sustain me. So I drank a dark cup of tea in lonely libraries across this island and kept my opinions to myself. Thus, I believed in the hard, intuitive truth of fiction over the dull mechanics of reality. Because I was suspicious of teachers and priests and idealized the kind of wisdom a state education cannot buy. Because I kept every breakfast table secret close to the chest and absorbed every late night tragedy that they could throw at me and fed my heart, my liver, my lungs to fiction like cancer. I dwelled alone in the deep winter recesses of my childhood, unmoved by kids' games and adult expectations. Listless as a moth going from flame to inexplicable flame, I held my head erect when called upon in class and refused to answer. I sat alone in long shadows of books, books, disobedient to all authority but theirs, and did not pray. I read and reread them all by the hopeless fireside, lost in a sea of language and did not understand a single word, and was liberated thereby in the long, difficult flight from childhood into the holy penumbra of words. Thank you. Actually, my big sister didn't believe that she thought she was adopted. Which raises this for Father's Day coming up by my real father. This is not a poem to my real father, but to all of the men who passed through my life at some point, incidental or otherwise, and the kind of incidental mentorship or accidental mentorship which can happen between men and boys. My real father left a bushel of clams in a burlap sack at our front door. I never knew his name. He was a burly man who knew my mother since she was a kid and feared the man that married her. He was a real man. He was a simple man. He was a shy man who my mother said was orphaned too soon and grew up on the fringe of things, who seldom spoke to the other kids that he was grown up with and never caused anyone trouble, least of all my mother. Nobody knew his name, not just me, neither in town nor out on the harbor. On Sundays, I would search the crowded faces at church for his face. No luck. He was a man who kept to his own. He was a man with no secrets to haunt him. He was a man for whom no authority held sway but his own, not noticed by man, nor woman, nor beast, and he lived in summer as in winter the same, at ease in all weather, be it snow or sun or autumn with its falling leaves. It was as if all the seasons fell equally on his broad shoulders, all of them. All of the seasons fell the same. Rain fell easily into his hip boots off the brim of his wide waterproof payman's hat. We never said hello. My real father and me. We never said hello, though I saw him on a bench by the harbor checking out the clouds, at the drugstore counter where he drank Coca-Cola or lemonade. He was polite to the waitress and buttered his own toast. He always had toast, and he always drank alone. He always sat alone and drank alone, a little away from the other men. And more than once I rode past him on my bike, but he never once smiled or looked up at me. I would see him outside the movie house, leaning against a Hollywood poster like Anthony Quinn, wearing the shoes of a fisherman with zapatos in spring, or waiting in a corner for a traffic light to change, or at the butcher's shop with a 3-digit number in his hands, and all the time in the world to order his bologna. He had all the patience in the world, this man. This man who lives alone this man could muster. And at the library, I saw him loitering among the stacks of books where my mother liked to go. I saw him there among those books, reverential, like an angel waiting at the gates of heaven. Except no silver trumpet. I never saw him touch a single book. Not once. Not a single one of those books. Nor take one down from the shelf. He just stood there in the silence of libraries with his calloused hands kept carefully at his side, admiring them. I don't see Tony at the tree yet. It is possible to love if you ignore what they tell us to fear. It's possible to love the blackness at the heart of the red rose, the loyalty of bees suffocating in honeycombs, the wetness of tears shed artificially, or doubt burrowing like a trench-digging road machine through selflessness, through servitude. It is possible to love if you ignore what they tell us to obey. Paper dragons, irksome smiles, dead-end lies, and inauspicious highways. The pessimism of roots dug way too deep into the poor soil of unreality. Concrete facts, a few intangibles, the poison gas of green envy raging in the well. It is possible to love. And the unresolved kisses and the unrestrained desire and the unexplained impulsiveness of youth and beauty squandered and the murderous lobotomy of mistrust passed from screen to screen, from eye to eye. It is possible to love. It is possible and necessary to love. Though the world's gone mad or been gutted at the butcher's block, though logic and good sense race away at the speed of light, though a hollow echo sounds in the empty heart like a corpse bell, and the rot spreads fast through floorboards and kitchen walls, and the vanishing point comes on faster than a fist through a funhouse mirror. It is possible to love, and ignore the galaxies crumbling around us in the cold, empty vastness of space that reaches into every, and the compost heap that piles up and up and up in the horizon that consumes us. The fruit flies prosper in the apple flesh of days, and the north wind blows and blows, and the unrepentant viciousness of the world flies at our nightmare window and opens up all the right doors in all the wrong places. It is possible to love. Thanks. You're right, this is almost June 21st. There's plenty of light. I'm usually here in late August and just barely able to see the page. Thank you, Tony. Thank you, Kiwanis. Thank you, Rotary. Kiwanis, right? Kiwanis here. And thank you for Oceanside Library for being part of this now. This is a poem for those of you who may remember back to a certain time in our corporate cultural existence when we had a big heart. When, like a big fire truck blowing through rush hour traffic to rescue the world from itself, and our free souls beginning their journey through the world, not with it, not against it, just through the world. And love was a word, and hearts were near to bursting on every doorstep and every puddle and plate. When, in the reflection of possibilities, like a belly full of miracles, when pure hearts grew to overfilling despite the cold realities, and grew round and red as radishes. And we had enough of all the bullshit that surrounded us and our all too human existences, and we're ready to change the world. When shimmering over the city like FM radio, a new kind of music appeared and sucked all the bad air out of our miserable and deranged animal brains and replaced it with collective joy. And ignorance and prejudice were defrocked and sent off to the aspects of history to contemplate their many crimes, and the world put on its new suit of clothes and surprised itself and us in the mirror with how good it looked, and went out into society and overcame its own imperfect nature and smiled. And life was on fire again, and something you could almost taste in the genuine equine motion of our bodies approaching each other openly on a dance floor. You just smell the smoldering ecstasy. You just feel it. Nobody was going to bring us down again. No, not this time. And the music sparked, and the streets were to us like the trajectory of stars, and love sweetened our tongues for each other. Sweetened our tongues for each other like spiced rum. And you extended your hand to mine, and I took it and offered mine in return. And the day-glow laughter of every woman and man sang a panegyric to every other man, woman, and child, and we were momentarily free. Free. And no small brain politicians to screw it up. Free. And no pub walk or betrayal or anger or hate of manufactured war to shame us. Free. Until our lungs hurt to bursting with so many kindnesses, so many kindnesses. Too much cotton candy at the fair. And we hung around on the cliff of a western shore and waited for the sun to go down, and we were magnified. We were magnified and never made to feel small when we had a heart that is. When we had a big heart. Thank you all.
George Wallace. And let's hear it for all of our readers tonight. Great job by all of you. Thank you so much. All right, now the 50, 25, 25. So the first one, name I draw, is $47. Another $47 gets put into the grand prize at the end of the year. And again, I will pick 4 more tickets that win nothing tonight, but maybe win the big pot in August. And the winner tonight is Chanice Cruz. Who says poetry doesn't pay? $47. All right. Chris Mara, you go into the August. Don't win anything now. Fran Bacon. Rita Monty. And Rita Monty. Doubles. All right. Thank you all so much. We look forward to seeing you again next Monday here on the Green. Good night, everybody.